Hello everyone. Today we're going to go over a simple way to pass data that we have in a table into a template letter that we might want to send to potentially customers. In this case, we have a fictitious bank with overdraft letters. We want to send those out to our customers, but we have the data and we want to be able to loop through each one of these rows and print these as a PDF so that we can print them off and send them. So what we have here is we have our account number, we have our name, we have the address, maybe we have the zip and state and city, we have the current balance, the day they overdrawn their account or overdrew their account, and then the total days that they've been overdrawn. And so here's what we have. I've already set up a basic template with just basic information. Again, this isn't real. I spent very little time on the formatting of this, but this is literally just a shape here and then a generic logo here, and then here's just some information that we're going to put in. And right where we have these underscores, you can see them, is right where we're going to pass in this data. And so the other thing I did to get set up is I set up these cells. These are going to be our target cells that we're going to pass each one of these through to, and then we'll create a reference within this content to reference it. So one thing we will do is we will use a very basic macro. If you're not familiar with macros, not a big deal. It's very simple. We'll walk through it, and I will post that data, that code into my description as well, so you can look at it. So first and foremost, though, let's just set up a basic. Let's just type in right now a manual entries, just so we can test out how this is going to work. So this will be Bill Smith, we'll say 323 Krogan Way, we'll say Flint, Michigan, oops, and we'll say, I don't know what their zip is, but we'll just make it up. Balance, we're going to say they're overdrawn, so they're negative 44.55. And then their account number, we'll just go XXX 555565. Date, we'll just do today. That will work, and then we'll say they've been overdrawn for 21 days. Okay. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to look at the first thing that we want to do. First off, if we're generating a letter that we want to send out, we're going to have to put an address on here. So the very first thing we can do right off the bat is let's just create a cell reference directly to the address here. First off, the name, I should say. We'll do the name. We'll do an equals address and equals city, state, zip. Okay, so just like that, now we have somewhere to send this. Now here's what we're going to end up doing. This is what we're going to use is the concat formula here, is we're going to add multiple strings together to get what we want. So we're going to say dear, and I forgot to put underscore for reference here, but we're going to put the name of the customer here. So we're going to say dear, but first we're going to wrap this in a concatenate, and I should put an equal sign. So concat, so the first text we're going to do, and we got to wrap these in quotes, is we're going to put dear, and we'll put a space here so there's a space between our value and this word, and that's the first argument. And then if we do a comma here, now we're going to pass in that value. So we're going to say whatever's in the value, or the cell J4, whatever value's there, we're going to put into that spot. So then that's the second text string, and then we're going to do another comma, and then simply this little colon here, wrap those again just like this. Okay, so dear Bill Smith, and whatever goes here will populate to here automatically. And so I'm going to do the same thing, same exact idea for this whole string. And again, this is completely customizable. You can format this however you want, but I'm just going to go through really quickly, and I'll do a couple more here. I think there's only 5 more spaces that we're going to put this in. So again, equals cat, and then wrap that here in quotes, comma, get rid of that, and actually we'll put another space here, and then we're going to go, so this is your count will be count ending in, so now we want that count number, so this is where we're going to grab this. We're not going to reference the table itself, but we're going to reference this, and then another comma, and then we got to finally wrap these in quotation marks as well, put a space there so there's a space between our value. And actually there's going to be two spaces we're going to do this for in this example. So the count has been overdrawn for X amount of days. And again, same thing, now we want to pass in how many days. They've been overdrawn 21 days. So comma, and then here we go to finish off the sentence here. And then finally wrap it. Okay, so our records indicate that your count ending in this has been overdrawn for 21 days, and then we continue on to the next. So I'm just going to really quickly go through, I'll speed this up here, and I'll just fill in the rest of this. Okay, so now what we have, our records indicate that your account ending in this number has been overdrawn for 21 days. If payment is not received in the next 15 days. Oh, and you know what? Oh, that's just the standard name. Your account will be closed and your balance of negative 44.55, which is here, will not be able to be recovered. With your account being overdrawn since this date, there'll be no more further notices about this overdrawn account. Okay, so we passed in all this information at some point, and now what we're ready to do is start populating these fields with our loop, with our macro. Okay, so we'll go up right to the developer tab here. And if you don't have this, make sure you just go to your account settings and go to the trust center settings, and it's something you can just quickly add. Either way, we'll go ahead and click Visual Basic here. And I already have this pulled up. If not, what you'll do is you'll go over to the Modules section here, and I can make this a little bit bigger for now. And you'll right click under Modules and do Insert, and then click here, and then we'll just paste this code in. So I have this already here set up, and I'll go through explain this really quickly here. Okay, move that just a little bit over here. Whoops. Okay. So first off, we're going to do sub and then letterprint, and then followed by parentheses. That's just going to be the name of what our macro is called. Then we're going to go through and what we call defining our variables. Our variables are going to be things that we set equal to other things so that we can use them later in our code. So just for shortcuts. So we got table. We'll use table, something called table. We'll use something called I. It could be anything, but we just like to say I. We'll use something called path, Range1. These are just things I'm calling it, and we're just defining what data types they are. So it's not like Python where it's super intuitive and you don't have to define your variables. And there are ways around that in here too, but in general, it's a good idea to do that when you're writing macros. So first, our path. So as we said, we have here, we want to define path. So we're going to set the word path, and we're going to set it equal to this. And this could be anywhere. This is going to be where I'm going to place it right now, which is just right here. And this can be anywhere you want it to go. Most people just select here where they want it, get in the folder and right click and paste it. If you do that, just make sure that you remember to put a slash after the end, because it's very easy to forget, and if you don't do that, it will go nowhere. So just something to remind you guys about, just to do that. So second, we're going to set what the table is. So table, and it's going to be a range. It wants to know what's going to be the range of our table that we're looking at. So if I move back over to here, our range wrapped in parentheses is going to be starting at A4, which is right here. And we don't want to get the headers, we just want to get the content. We want to start with A4, and then from A4 we want to start there, and then we want to go, what this is saying is to the right, go to the end to the right, and so to the end of the table would be here. Excel figures that out, and then end xlDown. So xlRight end, xlDown end, and then it knows that value, that cell, and therefore it knows the whole range from here to here, what that is. So that's what we're doing here. We're setting table equal to, we're defining what that variable is. So then next what we're going to do is get right into our if statement. Now, the reason we have an if statement here is because if there's only one row, this loop through is not going to work. It's going to error out. So what we need to do is do something a little bit different if there is only one row. So we're going to first evaluate if range A5 right here is blank, which is what this is saying, then we want to do this. So if there's only one row, we're going to do this. So let's go ahead and go through what we're going to do when there's only one row. We'll pretend there's only one row. And this is going to be pretty much the same concept for the second part. But either way, what we're going to say is if that's blank and there's only one row, we want to take range J4, which is our first target here, right here, yep. And we want to give the value, so we want the value of range J4 to equal our table. And so again, it knows our range because we defined what the table range is. And then this is just saying row and then column. So it's going to say row 1, column 2, which is the name. If we go down to J7, then we want to say, well, we want that to be here. And so we know that's going to be row 1. Again, we're pretending there's only one row. Row 1, column 1, 2, 3, which is what we got here. And then 1, 4, 1, 5, etc. So that's what that's saying there. And we're going to go through, and we know we only have to have one because we know there's only one row. That's why these are all the same. It's the same row, only one row. The one difference that you'll see here is on J20, which happens to be the date. And again, one tape from the table, it's column or row 1, column 6. We need to put a apostrophe before it. A lot of times when we move that data over into a new cell, it wants to make it as an integer number. Well, we want it to be a text, and we want it to read exactly how it is here. So we'll just use the apostrophe trick, and we'll put it before we place that value, and therefore it will stay the same. So yep, we're going to do that for each one of these targets. And then once we populate those, which then once that's populated, it will automatically come here because of our references, in-sheet references. We want to then print it automatically, PDF it. So we're going to say ActiveSheet, which is the sheet, export as a fixed format. You don't have to understand this stuff right here. Just do it. And then we're going to say the type equals xlTypePDF. And then the second part, comma, is it wants to know what the file name is going to be. So where do we want to put it? So we've already defined this as our path. So we're going to put path, which will be this. And then we're going to say and to add on to it, range J4. So we're going to put this path and we're going to call it whatever's in range J4. We want to do that because if we don't, they'll all be called the same thing and they'll all write over each other. And we don't want that. So it will be unique. And whatever you're going to put here, it needs to be something that's going to be unique. So a lot of times it's probably actually going to be safe as using count numbers. That's usually your best bet. For me, I'm just going to use the names right now. So that works. So, and then lastly, we're going to go back into our if statement now. We're going to assume now that there's multiple rows, which we have now. So we're going to say if that range A5 is blank, then we do that. But we're going to say if it's not, or else, then we want to do this. So this is not blank, so else we're going to do this now. Now this is where that I comes into play. And I is not going to matter. What if you call it I, you call it zebra, you call it, anything. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to use I because that's simplest. So this is part of the loop that we're going to pass through. This is going to be the changing variable here as we loop through the rows. And we want to know, we want to know for I it's going to equal, and well, what's it going to equal? It's going to be a range of numbers. So it's going to be 1, because there's at least be one row. 2, okay, well, how many rows does this table have? Well, we're going to look at our table, which is defined range already, and we're going to have it look at the rows, and we're going to have it count it. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows for it to count, and it will grab that. And so essentially this will be the same thing as saying I will equal 1 to 8. And then this is how this will use this. Then it will use I, and it'll say, okay, let me start with 1, because that's where our range starts. So we're going to say 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 1, 1, 1, 6, 1, 7, just like we did up here. But the difference is this is I, and this is set to a range. So instead of this just being static, it's going to then, after it does that, it's going to go to 2 and be 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5. And then it'll go to 3, 3, 2, 3, 3. So now you're just going down the rows, populating this data, printing it, going to the next row, populating this data, printing it, going to the next row, etc. So that's how that works, and that's what we're going to do here. And then, of course, lastly, you just end the loop with next I, and then end if, and sub. Just what we have to do here. So let's go ahead and click off that. We should be all done. And I will, like I said, we'll paste that in our description so that you can have access to that. Okay, last thing we want to do is just want to insert a form control. A lot of ways you can run a macro, but I just like making a little nice button. Okay, here's our macro that we created. We're going to click OK. And let's just rename this really quick. We'll just say print letters. Okay, so now let's go ahead and print this and see how this works. Okay, so I'm not sure if you saw that, but it goes pretty quick. It looped through everything from start to finish. And let's go ahead and check our, yep, there they are right there. Let's see if I can do that again real time so you can see them come in here. Here we go. We'll go ahead and print that letter thing first. Oh, it's too quick. So that's how quickly it goes in. So let's go ahead and look at the first one, Jasmine Ritter. Here she is. Because again, this is how we named it. So here's her information, 327. Let me move this down a little bit. Oops, where did it go? Here we go. Yep, 4406, 44 days. Yep, this all looks right. Okay, so click off her. Let's look at one more. Damian Wayne here. Dear Damian Wayne, here's his address. Yep, and there we go. There's all his information. So as you can see, we have a nice little letter that's already print PDF'd, and I could move that over a little bit, but formatting you can always mess with. But yeah, so here we go. We're all set. We're getting all of these PDFs. You can go through 100 of them if you want. It doesn't matter. But you'll be able to print these off then and archive them. So that's kind of what we wanted to do today. Another thing I will do eventually is the same kind of concept, but when we have multiple rows for one customer, passing it into like an invoice. So sales. So one customer has 10 rows because they have 10 products they bought. That might be something that I end up doing too. But again, same concept, just the way I like to do it. I think it's a pretty simple way. But yeah, leave me your comments and your thoughts in the comments. And anything else you want explained or want to see, just let me know.